Migration Summit 2023. My name is Lana Cook. I am from the MIT Refugee Action Hub, and I'm here with our co-organizers of this year's summit, Namal and Karam Foundation. I'll introduce our co-chairs shortly as we get into today's program. This is the opening session for the Migration Summit, a month-long convening, really designed to bring together community. What we'll cover today is kind of about why we have this summit, our history, our values, and then we're delighted to have Omar Alshogre here as our keynote speaker, and we'll end with some closing reflections from our organizing committee. And this really kicks off a month-long of events that we're so pleased to have you all join. So what is the Migration Summit? This came out of our vision last year to really bring together a global community for a month-long celebration, month of learning, month of inquiry and exchange, designed to build bridges between diverse communities of displaced learners, universities, companies, nonprofits, and NGOs, social enterprises, foundations and philanthropists, researchers and policymakers and employers around the key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. And so our vision really came out of working within the space that so many of us here work within or live within, of working within refugee and migrant communities on challenges in education and livelihood. So within MIT Refugee Action Hub React, we have a program that really is designed to build bridges from education to employment, particularly in high skill areas of computer and data science. And in running such a program, we find that if at one end at the front of the program, we're limited by people's access to the internet, to basic literacies, to the social emotional well-being and safety and kind of basic needs met to begin a learning program. If at one end we're facing those challenges, and at the end of that program, we're then facing barriers to work, legal right to work within refugee communities, discriminatory hiring processes, to how people feel a sense of safety and belonging within workplaces. Then at both ends, we're facing these real systemic challenges. And that work and working and really revamping these kind of greater systems cannot be done alone. And so we found in working with partners like Namal, Karam Foundation, that we were stronger together, and these opportunities to really share with one another best practices, research, lived experiences. And that's how this Migration Summit was really born. So last year, we kicked off this kind of grand experiment. We, organized 150 panelists and speakers to come together for 20 days of live events, offered globally, virtually, from different locations around the world. We had over 900 participants tune in, and really more than just tune in, as Lorraine, our co-chair, will share, really participate and exchange and show up in kinds of different ways in this community. We had our 5 partnering organizations, Paper Airplanes, and the MIT Abdul Latif Jameel World Education Lab joining us in that foundational year, and then 40 plus live events. I want to thank everybody who might be joining us for the second time this year. So maybe share in the chat if you were there last year, and what struck you as part of that Migration Summit. What felt different? What felt interesting? What's bringing you back this year? And we're also pleased to have so many who joined last year join our organizing committee, which Lorraine will give us an overview. So I want to give us a little preview of what's ahead. So this is just a sampling of the many exciting events that we have over the month of April. Here you see just even some events over this next week. So everything from looking at pathways to high school diplomas for refugee youth, creative industries, and pathways to employment, the real need for refugee-led organizations and meaningful engagement with local actors. And we're delighted this year that we are hosting both virtual but also on-site events in many of those communities. Remote employment with real business and company industry partners coming to the table to really understand how do we create more pathways to livelihood and dignity for refugee and migrant communities. And then, how do we make sure in this work that we're including all women, young girls in that education process, so that we're really lifting up everyone. And then to even the importance of arts and storytelling. So we have a number of sessions throughout the summit that really attend to that kind of creative spirit. How do we understand and hold the stories of the different communities? So not only working academically or in a research or practice kind of space, but also really engaging not only the mind, but the heart. And how do we understand and support each other as a community? And so we really invite all of those dimensions into this summit, as you'll see in these events, and we invite all those dimensions of yourself here into this summit. So we have 77 events planned for you all over this month, with 190 speakers and moderators from over 30 countries globally. And so our vision to really convene this global community is just coming through, and it's just so fantastic to see this come to fruition. And I just want to thank all of you for joining us, because really this is your summit. You're making this all possible with us. So I'd love now to hand it over to my dear colleague, collaborator, Lorraine Charles, the executive director and co-founder of NAMA.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. This is so overwhelming to be here. This community has really moved me. And I think this community is, gives an idea of why we're doing this. The aim of this summit is to be inclusive and generative and create sustainable spaces for collaboration. And this word collaboration is really important. We want to give a voice to refugees and migrants to take part in the solutions around the problems. So many events, so many spaces that are meant to discuss refugee voices, refugee issues, exclude refugees. And this is what we want to do different. We want to show the world that a summit, an event, a conference can exist and include refugees at the center of it. And this is where we see we're different. But not only do we want to be different, we want to show the world a template of what can be done. We want to provide an example and for others to follow our example. We want to bridge the gaps in the silos, in the way that organizations have collaborated in the past. We want us all to connect and share and learn in this safe space. And most importantly, we want to talk about opportunities and challenges for livelihoods and education for displaced people. So I want to sort of share a quote from our keynote speaker from last year, Sana Mustafa, who's the CEO of Asylum Access, which is an organization advocating for more equitable refugee response. So this quote is from an article in the New Humanitarian called Flipping the Narrative. And the title is called The Roots of the Refugee Protection System, a Colonial and Racist. So she says, I quickly realized that the refugee protection system in the United States and globally had little room for people with first-hand experience of forced displacement to advocate for ourselves or contribute to, let alone lead, policy conversations directly relevant to our lives. I was invited to events for organizations raising money to support refugees, where my role was to put a face to the issue and make an emotional appeal for donations. But when it came to talking about solutions or what should be done, I felt silenced and excluded. This is not what we want to do. We want to show that refugees need to be part of the conversation. They need to be driving the conversation, telling us what they need. So at the Migration Summit, we want to create a space that is non-hierarchical, where everyone's voice matters. But particularly, we want to listen to refugees because their voice matters. I would love to thank the organization committee. They've done an amazing job over the last few months. And planning actually started after the last summit finished. So it's not, so this was almost a year-long process getting us to this stage. Everyone was volunteers. We want to, and all of you volunteers have been amazing. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you for everything you've done. Without you, this summit would not be possible. Thank you for everyone that took time every other Tuesday afternoon, morning, evening, to come and share and help us and build this amazing community. I would like to introduce my dear friend, Dimitri Fidel, who from Karam Foundation. And I also want to say thank you to Lana. Again, Lana is a dear friend and colleague. And Lana, Dimitri, and I really, while we're the co-leads, we're just the ones that are sort of making the big decisions, but it's the community that does all the work. So Dimitri, I would love to invite you to talk about Karam and also to introduce Omar.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. And thank you, Lana, too, for kicking us off and getting that framing just perfect for the start of our second Migration Summit. It's so wonderful to be here and be the beneficiary of so much hard work that's gone over the past year to bring us all together again. Thank you to everyone, the organizers, as well as all the participants, because you're the secret behind the Migration Summit. This is how we learn. So I am part of Karam Foundation, and Karam, which means generosity in Arabic, is on a mission to build a better future for Syria. We work inside Syria and in refugee countries such as Turkey and Jordan, and here in the United States. Our work focuses primarily on serving children and youth, like many of your organizations. We believe in serving our communities by listening to their needs. We believe that the people closest to the problem hold the solution. Thus, our majority refugee staff is Syrian, Turkish, and American, and proud immigrants and migrants, and the children of migrants and immigrants. Our three core programs invest in long-term futures for thousands of young refugees and their families and their communities. The programs are primarily hosted in our Karam houses located in Turkey, in Istanbul, and in the south in Reyhanli, in Hatay, near the Syrian border. I invite you to visit our website and learn more about the programs. In the early hours of the 6th of February, 2023, the earth cracked and broke under the feet and sleeping bodies of millions of people in southern Turkey and northwest Syria. Tens of thousands never woke, and again, lives were shattered. Karam House Reyhanli withstood the devastating earthquake, and I wish we could say the same for so many people in the surrounding community as well as their homes. Our staff lost many friends and family members. We lost students to the earthquake, and families lost budding and hopeful branches of their family trees. I'm filled with awe and admiration for both the Karam staff, our community, as well as the many other NGOs and organizations that responded the very next day to start distributing emergency aid, blankets, water, food, and more. But there's a question, and this is my question. Where do you turn when you are the safety? Is it just another displacement? A report released earlier this month titled No Place But Displacement reported that 89% of people in Northwest Syria displaced by the Syrian revolution were displaced again. 65% of those have been displaced at least 3 times now, and almost a quarter have been displaced 8 or more times. While we can hope to wake up to environmental devastation, history has taught us that we can't prevent natural disasters or the wickedness of war. What we can do, though, is advance the agenda of the Migration Summit. The diverse learned experiences from hundreds of leaders and founders and donors must lead to a significantly more accessible, comprehensive, and durable system. Programs and bridges that can activate potential anywhere, any potential, and can bring greater hope, dignity, and prosperity where it's most needed. For those of us from privilege, let's support a system that's inclusive and that's better than the one that we had at our disposal. I always believe that education can't wait. That education is both life-saving and saves lives. When we look for lessons learned from another devastation on top of another displacement, I accept the vital need to provide real emotional and social support. When the numbers are so big, when our staff and communities are hit so hard, we should build from a core that focuses on mental health and mindfulness. Being okay is okay, but it's not always enough. We must provide psychological welfare and resilience of those who hold up the safety net, who keep going because of it, and if for again face long-term uncertainty and instability. I believe in the hope and promise of the ideas that we're going to generate in the coming months. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Omar Alshogre is a Syrian public speaker and a human rights advocate who endured 3 years of unjust imprisonment before being smuggled and brought to safety. Currently, he serves as the director of Detainees Affairs for the Syrian Emergency Task Force and a spokesperson for Atrocities Tracker, dedicating himself to the critical cause of advocating for those who are unjustly detained. Omar's public speaking engagement focuses on the essential elements of effective storytelling, leadership in crisis, and trauma as a driving force. Omar, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Migration Summit.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. And if I could start with something, it would be, we usually hear a lot of very challenging stories about refugees all over the world, which is true. A lot of refugees are actually suffering in so many places, whether that's in the internal displaced refugees or actually the people who are somewhere else who managed to make it outside of Syria. If we talk about the Syrian refugees who made it to Turkey and are suffering in Turkey, who made it to Greece and are suffering in Greece, and who made it to other countries and are suffering in these countries by discrimination or violence or any form of challenge that they're facing. But today I would love to combine the stories of challenge with good stories of hope, good, happy stories, even though it's going to start with a dark one. And to maintain credibility, I will share personal stories because I know them by heart. I was 15 years old when the revolution started, and I had no clue what revolution meant at that time. I was living my very normal life, going to school, back from school. You go home and play with your friends. I didn't like football. I didn't play football. I was the kind of guy who want to go to the mountain, go on a hike, or go actually discovering birds. I was very fascinated by birds. I would go to the wild and pick actually small birds, and I would tame them. Can you imagine, the birds that would, fly far? I would tame them so they fly. When I whistle, they fly back to my shoulder. That was super cool. And that was the extreme fun of my life. And at the age of 15, I was also in love with that girl, and that was fabulous experience. That was the highlight of my life at that time. And suddenly, in the middle of all of that, I joined the first protest, and I was arrested. First time, 15 years old, being arrested was not really a good thing for your reputation, but also you didn't understand politics. And 2 days later, I was taken out of prison, was released because the women of my town managed to block the highway. I was released, and that's the first time I understand that we need freedom. We need freedom in our country. We need to go out to the street asking for freedom, because when you are in a cell being tortured by a guard who's supposed technically to be protecting you because he's the police of your country, suddenly they're doing crimes. You start questioning everything and you think things are very wrong. You need to stand against that. So I started joining every protest I could until I was taken to prison for the last time. And that last time was not like the ones before. That last time seemed much darker than I thought it would be. I always relied on my mother, who is a fabulously strong mother. You won't even believe how strong my mom is. She's fabulous. Whenever they arrest me, I don't even worry, a few days, then my mom will get me out. And she did multiple times, but the last time was different. they arrested me with my cousins and some of our friends, and ended up in prison. And for the first week, my mom was coming at any moment to get me out, and 2 weeks passed, and I was getting nervous about it. 3 weeks later, she's working hard for it. A month later, it hurts, and then 2 months later, I miss her food, and then 3 months later, 4 months later, and the time goes, and I slowly started to lose my hope that my mom will get me out. And exactly when I lost my hope, they arrested a new cousin of mine who told me that my family was killed in a massacre in 2013, half a year after I was arrested. And that's when everything stops. You have no one, nothing. Not just no one to get you out, but you have nothing to live for. If they bombed your school, if they killed your childhood friends, and the ones who are not dead are next to you, gonna die soon in this cell, and your family was killed, and there's not even birds anymore in your town because they burned everything, what do I have to live for? Not much. So I lost my hope until one day. I always dreamed of dying during my time in prison in a positive way, because I just wanted to die because it's comforting to die at that time. I was starved. I was so starved that I could imagine food all the time, nonstop. And I'm so hungry I could not sleep because my head is thinking about food. And I see on this screen, we have people who've been in prison in the same cell with me, and they know exactly what I'm talking about. And it was extremely difficult to sleep when you've been starved for over 2 years. It's not like the now Ramadan time you're fasting for 18 hours. No, it's totally different thing. Human can kill each other in order for them to survive. Massacres happens in order to get the food. And I just live in these conditions, and I just want to die, But before I die, I want to eat once, be full, and die. So I die with a good feeling. And the day came when they actually came to the room, and they called on my name, and they took me to another room. And I was told that I will be taken to execution. And, even though you want to die, it's scary, because you want to die, but you don't want to stop the beautiful memories. You don't want to believe that you will never see the ones you loved. You never want to give the hope that you can have a bird in your hand again, or something like that. You see what I mean? Even though you want to die. So when they took me to that room and told me they would be, executing me, and every hour they come and ask me, how do you want us to kill you? And they force you to give answers. I just want it to happen, I just want it to happen very quickly, because it's ending anyway, and I don't want to imagine pain in addition to living the pain itself. So I don't want to see the way they're going to kill me. I just want them to kill me so it ends. And they take me to execution. And we were under the ground. We didn't know if it was a beautiful day or an ugly day, if it's rainy or sunny. I have no idea. And they take me and they put me on the ground. You can't see anything. You just have a blindfold on your eyes, and your hands are, chained behind your back. And, the time goes very slowly at that moment, because you're so fearful, because I don't want death to hurt. I've been hurting for 3 years on a not daily basis, on a secondly basis. I've been hurting. So I don't want death to hurt. And after death, I don't want it to hurt either. I just want to die and things end. And they said, load, aim. And there you have a second to imagine all the beautiful things you would like to imagine, whether that's the girl you love, or your mom, or your friends, or the bird, or the first good experience you had in your life. Anything you want to imagine, you just try to imagine. Poof! And they shoot you in the middle of that, and you die. For the first time in your life, for the first time in my life, I never died before. It's the first time, and I always believed there's a life after this life, and I didn't know the form of that life, but I just believed there's something else. So when they shot and I died, I started to imagine very beautiful things, and I could see beautiful things in my head. And then I moved, and there was a light coming into my eyes. And then I managed to wake up a little bit. And when I managed to open my eyes, I see the most beautiful thing you could ever imagine as a person who just got out of this dark place. I saw a tree. I saw a tree for the first time in a very, 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 very long time. And I saw a flower, and I saw color for the first time in a very long time. And I could see a bird flying in front of me, and all of that, combined makes you overwhelmed of how beautiful it is, overwhelmed to the level that you are not really aware of what happened. I died, and now I'm in afterlife, or am I dreaming? More of a nightmare. Very confusing moments. You won't really understand what's happening, and suddenly a car stops behind me before I realize what happened, and the car takes me and drops me somewhere else, and all these random details are happening. I have no idea of what's happening. The car drops me, and then I'm in the middle of a lot of people, and then a man behind me knock my shoulder, turn me around, give me a phone, call your mom. I have no idea. Like, things are moving too fast for me to absorb, and I was very, very, very sick. And I thought I died, but then I start to question whether I'm dead or alive, or whether I'm dreaming. Until the man who was trying to take me from where he picked me in Damascus, random details. I'm like you, confused right now. I was equally confused, or even worse. And then that man tells me, I am taking you to meet your mom. And when he said that, I knew that my mom died. So he means that I'm not dead. He's gonna kill me again. So I go to mom in afterlife. That's how I thought about it. And then he takes me to a room. He opens the hotel room and say, hey, go in. And I go in. And I don't know what to expect, to be shot or actually see my mom, because this life has been very wild. Anything could happen. And that's when I move in, and I see something moving in the room, and I turn left, and I saw a monster, something very scary, very ugly, bleeding. And I was very afraid to see that. And that was me on the mirror. That was the first time I see myself in a very long time, in years. And I was 34 kilos, 75 pounds, 20 years old me. But I died. I don't know. Afterlife, you're supposed to look better, adjusting to the afterlife. It's supposed to be fancier a little bit. So the man next to me told me what happened. And what happened is the following. I was supposed to be executed, and someone else was supposed to be released. They killed that person, and they get him out of prison. I got his body out with my name, and get me out of prison with his name. And I got out of prison. Who did that? It is actually my mom, who, according to my information, was dead during my time in prison. However, she didn't die. She survived the massacre that happened in our town, and she managed to get me out. She got me out, and I went to meet my mom for the first time in Turkey after many years. But I was so sick, and I had tuberculosis, so they had to take me to an isolation room and put me on my own. But I wasn't getting better. I was just getting closer to die of disease, and I was sent to Sweden. Not sent by airplane or anything you can imagine like that. It's more like you had to take a rubber boat from Turkey to Greece, then walk for long distance, then take a train, then a bus, then walk a lot, and then in every second and every step you take, you worried you won't make it to the next one because you're just bleeding out. And the other people on the way, they see that you seem to have a contagious disease, so nobody would come close because nobody want to have tuberculosis, which I had at that time. But I made it to Sweden. And this is the most beautiful story you want to hear, right? Now you heard about this traumatic experience of a refugee. Let me tell you about something very beautiful. I arrived to Sweden. I was very, very, very sick. So I was in the waiting room waiting for the hospital, for the doctor. And in the waiting room, on the other side, That was a father, a mother, and a daughter, and they were Swedish. And you can imagine how beautiful the Swedish people are. And I was sitting in this waiting room, and they were in front of me, and the daughter was just boom, fabulous. So I was staring like any other guy would do. I was staring, and then I just, switched my sight for a millimeter, and the dad was staring me in the eyes. So you hide, you don't know what to do. If you have a phone, you look on your phone and anything. And suddenly I noticed the dad was moving, and he sat next to me with his daughter, and he started to talk to me. I didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Swedish. So he took Google Translator and started to try different languages until he found Arabic. And I was, I just got out of prison. I was isolated from civilization. When I was arrested, all the phones had so many buttons in them. Suddenly they were touch. It's a revolution for someone who disappeared from the world for a few years, right? I didn't understand phones properly. And the guy talks to me through Google Translator. Hey, how are you? And I speak in Arabic. It translates to English at that time. And we started talking. Then he said to me in the end, you want to hold my daughter? And he gives me his daughter, who was 4-month-old, Sally. And I hold Sally in my hands for the first time. And I always loved children. And, I would cry and I would laugh at the same time. But the big problem was she actually started to cry. And, when kids start to cry in your hands, you have to drop them back to their parents. But it was a very beautiful moment of a Swedish guy who never went through what I went through. Despite my illness at that time, he noticed that I was slowly, in a very short time, falling in love with his daughter. It seems like I haven't seen such a beautiful thing in a very long time. So he gave me his daughter. I hold Sally in my hand for some time. Then he says, you want to be my friend on Facebook? And I didn't have Facebook. So I downloaded Facebook, we became friends. And I went home. But a friend on Facebook is not much, it's nice when you meet a person in person, but then there was no pandemic at that time, I had a pandemic because I was isolated because of tuberculosis. I was in quarantine all the time. So when somebody trusts me for the first time with the most meaningful thing they have, their kids, it meant a lot. And then when he went home, he started texting me, and I would take his text, take it to Google Translator, translate it to Arabic, and then write in Arabic, translate it to English, and send to him. But then we switched to Swedish, actually, so I can learn some Swedish in the way. And then he texted me the day after, say, hey, I talked to my mom about you. I don't know what he told his mom. And the only thing we had in our conversation is, hey, how are you? Good. What's your name? Where is your family? I told him I was trying to. Google Translator wasn't working well, so I was trying to put short sentences. So when he asked me, where's your family? Instead for saying half is dead, half is alive, and half is here, I just told him, everybody died, except my little brother who was with me, 10 years old then. So the day after, he said, my mom wants to meet you. So I met his mom, which was very lovely, but didn't really understand anything from our conversation. Google Translator works so bad in Arabic. It doesn't really work well. And then they invited me for a couple dinners. That was Christmas Eve at that time. That was December 2015. Christmas Eve, I spent the dinner with them, and everything they're going to talk with me about, they have to point at pictures. And we're sitting on a dinner table, and everybody is holding their phone, a different version of Google Translator. Oh, mine works better. Oh, mine works better. And they trying to have a conversation. And then not long time after that, I received a very long message from the mother on the phone saying to me, we had a dinner with our neighbors, our friends, and our family members, and we would like you to move and live with us. We have an empty place in our heart, an empty place in our house. A sentence that did not make a lot of sense for me at that time until I realized that their son, almost my age, died in a car accident. And then they met me. So they had an empty place in their heart. And then they had a place in their home, the room of their kid who died. So in a way, I've been very lucky with these sad circumstances that I went through, and the sad circumstances that they went through made a lot of luck for me to actually be part of a Swedish family. So a few months later, you learn Swedish, then you speak Swedish, then they it's a high performing family, I would say. The mother was the CEO of the Swedish national TV, gave me the opportunity to be on TV for the first time. And one of the sons encouraged me to deliver my first speech. That's how I became a public speaker. And then high performing family. So the first thing is you have to go to school. I did well in terms of language. I went to school, and school was very easy because I feel like I was a good student in Syria. But the big problem was that I had no papers from Syria. And I was taken out of prison with another name. I'm registered dead in the country. There's no files. There's no papers. There's nothing, you know. So I had to redo high school at the age of 21, go back to high school. And I managed. They said you have to go 3 years of high school. That's a very long time. I'm gonna go out of high school, have to get married after that. I'm gonna be so old. So I managed to convince the principal to only do 1 year of high school, and I did 1 year of high school, and I managed, so 3 years combined in 1 year. And then I was delivering a speech at the management consultancy, and then delivered a good speech, and the boss said, "Hey, you want to work here?" And I started. I realized it was one of the biggest management consultancies in the world, Boston Consulting Group. A lot of luck in a way, but a lot of saying yes to things. Whatever an opportunity shows up, say, "Hey man, I'm all set, I'm ready." Then I went to the United States, and that's another very interesting story of a refugee. I went to the United States. I had a speech at Brown University. Then I went to DC. A random guy reached out to me on Facebook. I say yes for everything. I went to DC, and there I met a friend of his, an older woman, and she said, "You want to have dinner with me and my family?" And I had dinner with her and her family. They are from Philly, and I got close to them. 4 daughters. They never had a brother before. So they said, next time you come to the United States, if you fly closer to us, you spend two days with us here in Philly before you go to your work in DC. I said, yeah. So I did it a few times, more times and more times. And then I was there in March 2011, just March 2020, just for the weekend. They announced lockdown. And I was locked with the family, day and night. And the first 2 weeks, you love each other so much. They very excited about having a brother. I'm very excited about 4 new sisters. It's very fun. They taking care of me. After 2 weeks, you start fighting with the younger one. She wants to be involved in everything. She wants this and she wants it, and you want this, and no, disturbing. Yeah, you have a meeting, so on. You start to fight, and that's when you build a very good relationship. That's when you become. But one of them was extremely kind and passionate daughter who was like at that age 13 years old, and she said to me, "Omar, you have to live with us forever, you know. How can you do that?" And during a dinner conversation, somebody pitched the idea of I should apply to school in the United States so I can stay with them in Philly. I should apply for Penn or something. And Maeve, 13 years old, would tell me, "Omar, if you love me, you would apply to school in the US." And I said, "Of course I love you, Maeve. I'm doing it tomorrow." That was like just to end the conversation. The day after, "Omar, did you apply to school?" "I'll do it tomorrow." "No, Omar, if you love me, apply to school." 2 months of that phrase every single day until I submitted my application, which I really didn't do well on the application itself. I had a lot of people helping, including Maeve, 13 years old, was going through my essays because applying to the US, school in the US is painful. And then they checked my application, submitted, and I had like zero hope of getting in because I didn't really invest in it myself, mostly the people who helped me write it. And then I got in to Georgetown. And in 2 months from now, I'm negotiating with the school. I think in 2 months from now, I'm walking my ceremony of graduation. So it'll be also studied a 4 years degree in 2 years. I like doing things much faster. So it's very fun. Technically, what I'm trying to say is that there are dark stories. There are very dark stories. But there are many hopeful stories. And during the 7 years trip I've been having, I realized people do not invest in broken people, unfortunately. People invest in people that have potential to be something. So my Swedish family invested in me because they believed I could do something good. My American family did the same thing because they believed this guy could study, but also he can help Syria in this. So when people see you that you have a passion, they invest in you automatically. That does not only apply for refugees, that applies to everyone around the world. If you have passion for something, that encourages people to invest in you because you may be a profitable investment in the future. You will have a role. That's why when we share stories of refugees, we do not only focus on the painful stories, because the painful stories makes the world feel hopeless and helpless, and people cannot feel like they cannot do anything about it. So what you have to do is, if you have to share the brutality of someone's story, you have to remember to share their life before the brutality, the simple life, the normal life they had. So it makes it relatable to the people around the world, but also share their plans for the future. It's not enough to share that refugees are in camps. It's not enough to say they are hungry or thirsty or sick or need medication, or no, it's not enough. It's not a complete story. And this story is not enough to get people engaged, to care, to take certain actions to help people around the world. So this is my responsibility as someone who was a refugee, had to take the trip like everyone else to make it to Europe. When I shared my story first time, I shared it with a smile on my face, like you can see today, right? I included the terrible details, but I ended on a good note because I want to give people hope, tell you that the people of Syria are hopeful people. So if you invest in them, they will be working hard to make sure this investment does not go for nothing. You see what I mean? And in terms of education, everybody I met during my journey since I got out, well, firstly, before the revolution, my dad used to wake us up at 4 a.m. to read for 1 hour. That's during summer when we had no school. To read for 1 hour, then go sleep, then you wake up for breakfast. Because he wants us to be good students. You have to be a doctor, engineer. It's like a very Syrian thing. And then I make it to Sweden, and the same thing, my Swedish family, school. Because I started engineering school and I dropped after 1 year because I had a more fun opportunity to be in the United States. And my Swedish mom, she would say, oh, no, commitments. You need to learn to have a commitment. It's not only about the courses you take. It's about you challenging yourself to be in the same place for 3 years to achieve something. And I think refugees all over the world have been challenged for so many years to go through something on a daily basis, on a yearly basis. Some of these people had enough luck to make it somewhere else, to make it to Sweden or to Germany or to Canada or somewhere where it's technically safe, and others didn't have that opportunity. And the ones who are in the most need for refuge outside of Syria are the ones who are still inside Syria, because they don't have the financial steels, they don't have the money. It costs a lot of money to make it to Europe. I could not leave without like $5,000 to $7,000 to make it to the whole way to Sweden. So the people in the most need are the people on the ground, but those people, we cannot really get them all out. So what we have to do is try to improve their life as much as we can. And a generation that's not going to school is a generation that will struggle a lot in the future. And the Syrian regime knows, the regime is fully aware of that. They bombed schools and hospitals and so on, but they focused on schools, so they have a destroyed generation that cannot promote itself as an educated generation looking for democracy and freedom. So what we have to do is we have to utilize all the possible ways that we can bring education to people on the ground where schools are not as available. And now we live in a very digitalized technological world, and we have this possibility. It's not impossible to bring education to everyone's phone, to everyone's laptop. Some people won't have these smartphones or laptops in their hands, but we can bring these tools to them in a very different way. And when I say what I said, I don't deny the trauma that every refugee has went through. I'd rather try to offer a different perspective of looking at the trauma. You can, everybody has a part of trauma in their life, regardless if they're privileged or been living in war or so. You cannot You cannot just sit waiting for your trauma to disappear. You have to do something about it, whether talk about it or go to psychologists or so on. For me, it has been sharing it. When I share my trauma with the world, it feels it's not mine anymore. It's not my responsibility. I'm sharing it with everyone. And that's what I would encourage a lot of people who are suffering mentally to do. But also, if you are not suffering mentally, some people are. And if you can sometimes offer an ear, it would be fabulous, because that's what my Swedish family offered me. Ear. They listened to me. They reflected on my story. They asked me questions. They were very curious about it. They made me love my story despite the painful parts of it. They made me proud of being a Syrian. They made me proud of being a refugee instead for shaming me and looking down at me for being a refugee. And that's the breaking point. When you are empowering refugees, then you don't need to help them more in the long run. They will be active participant and active members of the society. So that would be the best statement to end on, is actually we have to empower refugees by telling them that their challenges they went through are challenges that made them more resilient, smarter, more intelligent, and have all the potential in the world. They may not have all the circumstances needed yet, but they will. So we have to encourage them to work hard. You have to encourage every single one we know that's going through difficult challenges to work hard, because at some point they will break that typical image of them, and they will be heroes. They will be future leaders. And I'll stop here. Thank you for paying and giving me an ear.
Thank you, Omar, for these profound words and for trusting us with your story. I feel such gratitude that the circumstances of your life led you to be able to share your story with us today. And in honoring just the power of what you've shared here, I want to invite us all just to pause, to just take a moment. We might close our eyes or just find even just a neutral place to soften our gaze and just to breathe into the body. Just to notice what's moving in me. What kind of emotions are present? Often in our days in this technology-driven world, we'll listen, we'll hear, and then we'll move on. We'll distract ourselves, grab our phone, a new browser, food, something to comfort away the discomfort. What does it mean to sit with that discomfort? What does it mean to sit with that inspiration? Just so, take a deep breath. Just attend to what's in your heart, to what's in your mind as you hear Omar's story. And I'd like you to just, there's a piece of paper, maybe you have a journal, maybe it is opening up a new browser, an email window. Just take a moment just to reflect, writing down just a few words. What does Omar's story move in me? What emotions and feelings, sensations and thoughts are arising? What ideas or questions am I thinking about? So here we're just taking a deliberate moment just to pause and to honor the profound story we've heard that might connect to stories we ourselves have lived, or that are of those that we are in community with today. Just taking a moment. And you might, even if you want, share in the chat anything that comes up for you. It's just as we pause and we just reflect. So in that spirit of reflection, I'd like to invite my colleague Lorraine Charles, we'll invite some of our colleagues to share their reflections as we open up this month's summit within this space of just a pause and reflection and holding for each other, all that's moving as we take on both the challenges, but also those opportunities and hope that Omar spoke of when people are seen beyond labels, but as the full human beings that they are. Over to you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Lana, and thank you so much, Omar. I knew you were amazing. You are even more amazing than I thought. So thank you for sharing your amazing story. And thank you for being part of our community. Welcome to our community. You are now part of our community. So thank you for agreeing to speak with us today, and welcome to our community. So, as I said, we also have some incredible people who are part of our organizing committee. We wanted to invite all of them, but of course it's not possible. So we have 3 of our co-leads. So each of our, for the Migration Summit, we have several committees, and each of our committees were led by refugees. So we have 3 today who have agreed to come speak with us. So first is Al-Narjis. I've met Al-Narjis in person twice, so I feel extremely lucky in a post-COVID world to have met someone that I work with twice. So Al-Narjis is now living in the UK, and she was one of the co-leads of one of our committees, and she was a speaker in last year's Migration Summit. Al-Narjis, please unmute and welcome. We just want to hear your voice.
Thank you so much, Charlie. It's nice to see you again here. Actually, I'm supposed to just give a reflection on my participation in the MIT Migration Summit, but actually it's hard to continue the session as planned and as normal as it was before Omar's speech, especially that I can highly relate his traumatic experience to mine and how similar we are in pain and suffer. So the first time I participated in the MIT Migration Summit, I was just telling my story, which contains pain, suffer, and also success by the end. And this year, the MIT Migration Summit just became part of my success as being one of the organizing committee. So I'm happy to be here again, and I'm happy to see all of these supporters who are supporting not only Omar, but also all refugees who come from the same background, who have the same suffer and have the same feelings of getting pain because of war and displacement. So I would say, like, I feel in the right place, not only because of these supporters, but also because I'm saying that a lot of other refugees who made it, and even who are trying to make it, are here as well. So it's a place to gather both the people who we are working for and the people who are supporting. I'm glad to be here, and I like the MIT Migration Summit as it tried to connect all people together and provide the support needed. And I always see that education is a weapon for peace. This is the only weapon that young people have in order to defeat their traumatic experience, their migration experience, and to also contribute to the reconstruction of their countries in the future. I'm happy to be here and glad to have you all supporting this mission, and I'm sure that I'll be part of this MIT again and again and again, and recommend it again for other people who I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Al-Narjis. Wow, we're so happy and fortunate to work with you. And honestly, I can say every time I've met you, I've been so impressed and happy. So thank you for being here, and thank you for those wonderful remarks. So next we have a leader, another one of our amazing organizers, an MIT React alumni from the previous cohort. an amazing, amazing lady. Throughout the Migration Summit, she has worked really hard, you know, to a lot of what you see here, all these logistics is because of her and Al Nashes. So Alida, welcome. I'm so pleased that you're part of our community. Please unmute yourself and share your reflections with us.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to be here and to be part of this MIT Summit, second edition, as I was part of it last year. It's such a great honor to be here and to be able to showcase how much this summit has been an impact to the refugee, particularly. So I have been in this summit last year as a refugee who was being helped by the MIT React as a student alumni today. Thanks so much for the outcome of this great summit. Unfortunately, I don't know, I was trying to open my camera, but I switched to the Migration Summit Zoom account, but I couldn't make it. So I would like to apologize about that technical issue. Yeah, thank you so much in general, Lorraine. So I would like to thank everyone. Alida, I'm a refugee from Burundi and currently reside in South Africa. And yeah, as Omar said, refugee everywhere around the world. We share some struggles and challenges, but most of the things that we have to share about is how we are the testimony about how good people are, how much the host community have been accepting us, and it's not like a label that we have to carry all the way. As a refugee, you can change the world and you can meet great people and be able to achieve your dreams. And yeah, and I'm here to encourage all the refugees out there that there is a lot of things and the life is not full of painful stories, but there's also great things to need to be shared about how we overcame using education as a key to the success in the life of a refugee. And yeah, it's something that I would like to encourage our fellow refugees who are still on an education journey, that they have to love to study, they have to pursue their studies in order to make a way to fit into the society and try to pay back to the society using their skills acquired along the way. And yeah, and now today I can stand boldly and confident and stand out of the crowd and saying that I'm a refugee, but who has now qualification that is well needed in the world as a data scientist, and yeah, from MIT's program that I finished last year. So after that, it has been a blessing to me and impacted to me a lot, and a lot of doors opened up after that qualification. So I here to thanks all the sponsors, all the partners of MIT React and NAMR. Yeah, thank you so much, Lorraine, how you helped me to, to cover my story and share my background as a refugee with the article that I had with the BBC. So yeah, thank you so much. And I'd like to invite everyone who has been supporting refugees around the world to keep it up, the good work. And yeah, and those who are here this year, stay connected with the great people. They are really good people, and yeah, together we can make an impact into refugees' lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alida, for your wonderful comments. And we're so happy that we can be here to support everyone. This is, with privilege comes the opportunity to help when we can. So for our final speaker is Ziad. So I met Ziad, the first MIT React alumni. He was in Damascus at that time, always enthusiastic, an amazing, amazing person. And I was always captivated by Ziad, captivated by him. And when he joined the committee, I was so excited that he decided to join the committee on the communications team. He did a fantastic, tremendous job. All the comms that you see go out on our social media channel, thanks to Ziad and Suhong, who's probably somewhere in the audience. So Ziad, I'm happy to introduce you. I'm happy you're part of this community and really looking forward to hearing your comments today.
Hi guys, hi all. Thanks Lorraine for this beautiful introduction. I'm humbled. So as we have heard, sorry, from all the other people that have spoken today, we could see that refugees, displaced people, or immigrants in general, they just need the opportunity to shine, because they are skillful people. They have a remarkable set of skills, and they have this courage to fight back and to fight each day to get a better life for themselves and for the whole community they are living in. And that's why I joined the Migration Summit as a co-leader of the Communication Committee. And I just want to say a big thank you for Suha also. She's the other co-leader of the Communication Committee, but I believe she's joining today a little bit late. So I joined this committee because during my travels, how I got to travel abroad and either for studying or for work, all the help that I had from people is that they told me where to look, told me where to put my efforts in. And this information, it's not really easy to get. I understand that we are right now in the age of information, in the age of computer and social media, but because of this, we have so much that we could look for, but we don't know where to look for. And this is what the most helpful aspect for me in the Migration Summit. We are trying to create a network of people. We are trying to connect those people to help each other to look and to get the opportunity that they deserve. And that's, in my opinion, is the best part in this Migration Summit. And I'm really excited for all the events we are going to have. We have so many more awesome and amazing speakers. And I would like to thank Omar, although he's long gone. And I want to thank also Camelia and Fiorella, because they were really helpful for the success of our committee, our communication committee. I know they are doing much more for the whole organizing committee, but we wouldn't be here without them. And thanks, Lana, Dimitri, and Lorraine for this amazing opening session.
Thanks, Ziad. Really excited for the next few months, for the next month. It's going to be an incredible few weeks. I'm going to turn it over to Lana, who will close us out today.
Yeah, so wonderful. So thank you all for joining us for this opening session. I hope this gives you just a small taste of what we have planned over this month as we hear kind of this recurrent theme in our conversation in the chat. We're really inviting in the whole human experience. So not only the kind of pain and trauma, which is of these different experiences of displacement, which are so important to honor, so important for us to hear and to sit with, but also to really honor the joy, the accomplishments, the visions, the future that refugee and migrants are leading us towards, right? That this is the future of our globe. There is so much potential here in these communities. So thank you. So at 11 o'clock Eastern time, our program will continue with an interactive workshop on cultivating compassionate systems change. So I'll facilitate that session, which is really around working with some of these ideas and different systems thinking tools. A recording of today's session will be captioned and published on the Migration Summit YouTube channel, and we invite you to register and join for our future sessions throughout the month. Thank you all for joining us today and wishing you all a wonderful rest of your day. Take care. Feel free to unmute yourselves and say goodbye in whatever language or way you choose.
It was great to see you all, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Gracias.
It was phenomenal. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the coming ones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Bye.
Next session.
Au revoir à tous.
Au revoir. Bye.
Awesome, Kanye.
Bye-bye.
Merci beaucoup.